This is a short presentation on assignment 2. You can actually read the requirements here and understand. The program should behave like this. I don't want to explain the problem because that is already explained here, but I wanted to tell you a few things that are important as you attempt to do the problem. One thing is in your program, please note that it should behave like this. It should ask for the number of rooms. And in this particular example, I entered 4. It could be different from execution to execution. So do not expect that the user will always enter 4. Do not display this 4 on your own. These green things are things I entered as I executed the program. The program did not display this 4. It displayed enter number of rooms followed by a colon and a space, and 4 is something I entered to the program. Similarly, enter area of a single room, enter number of rooms carpeted. These are all things the program printed, but the program did not print 15, it did not print 2. So do not print 15 or 2 in your program. Those are just things that I entered. So this is actually copied from the program's execution, from the program's output. And this is stuff that the program displayed. Enter number of, that is number of rooms is 4, area of a single room 15, blah, 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 all that stuff. So these things in yellow are dependent on what I entered here, either directly or computed from those. So think about the input, output, and what should be processed, and solve the problem. You should test your program thoroughly, and in your submission, you should have a few pieces of test data. I'm asking for at least 2. So you should have in your submission a section where you try out some test data. So you have, for example, in this case, I tested this with 4 for number of rooms, 15 for area of a single room, and 2 as the number of rooms carpeted. So this would be one possible test data, but that is something you should not be using. You should be using different numbers. So these are examples of data that you would be using to check whether your program is working correctly. For example, if the number of rooms is 4 and area of a single room is 15, and if 2 rooms have been carpeted, 2 rooms are yet to be tiled, and they would have an area of 30. So I can write that out here, and that would be one possible test data. But of course, as I said before, you cannot use these numbers for your test data. One thing I don't want you to do is copy your program's output and then use it and say that that is test data. You will probably not get any credit. Another thing I wanted to say was, do not jump to programming straight away. Write pseudocode. If you write pseudocode, you would have at least the major steps for solving the problem, and then it is actually a little easier to translate that to Python code. So here are some examples of how you would translate from pseudocode to Python code. For example, if your pseudocode is something like input an integer into X, that is, you want to read an integer from the user and store it in X, the corresponding Python code should be x equals int input, enter a number. So this translation table would help you write your program. But first of all, you have to have your pseudocode written. Many students simply rush to the computer and start typing in Python code without thinking how they are going to solve the problem. That is the wrong approach to problem solving, and you will run into problems sooner or later. You have to have some patience. So spend some time at your desk with maybe a paper and pencil and write your pseudocode first. And so that is your first step. I'll show you an example in a few minutes. And there are examples of how the program should look. I think these instructions are pretty clear. So follow those, and then you should submit your Python file. And I don't need to see your execution. So submit the Python file and it will be graded as given here. So let me now show you a sample assignment and what its solution would look like. So this is a sample assignment. What it asks for, what the program is supposed to do is ask for the sale price of an item and the discount, any discount that the seller is offering, and then print the sale price, the discount, and the final price. So if you are asked to solve this problem and if you have to submit everything that I'm asking you to submit, the solution would look like what I am going to show next. So this would be the kind of submission that you need to make for your assignment, which is different from the sample that I am showing right now. So you should put at the top your name. So before that, put 3 single quotes so that all these are comments. Then write a little description of what your problem is. Then write your pseudocode. Then put the test data. So let me show you how this will execute. So I'm going to press the function key F5, and it is going to ask for some numbers. What is the sale price? Let me put 30.5. Discount, let me put 10.5, and it prints these things, right? So 30.5 less 10.5 is 20.0, that is the sale price. So this is one execution. I can use this as test data, but what some students do is they copy this stuff and present it as test data. That will give you 0 points. You should actually write this in the form of a table. These test data you should create before you actually write the program. You should write the program only after understanding it, have constructed the pseudocode, and also have some idea as to how you're going to check its correctness. You have to be a little patient in this business. If you think that writing the program is the most important thing, then you should actually get the pseudocode and test data in place before you do that. Otherwise, you will develop some bad habits, and you will be less successful in your programming classes. That I can tell you. Develop the right habits. I cannot force you to do it, but I highly suggest. So don't do like this. Just execute the program and copy the output. You should never do that. Second thing is pseudocode. Write pseudocode like this before you write the corresponding Python program. Don't do the following. Write the program and then pretend that is pseudocode. If you do this kind of stuff, you will get a 0. You can't even write like this. If you write like this, again, you will get a 0. Some stuff like this. What I have done is I'm cutting corners. I copied the Python code and then I'm pretending that it is pseudocode. Don't write like this. Instead, why don't you spend some time thinking about what should happen first? I should be reading in the sale price. So read the sale price of item into, give some variable name, sale price, like that. And once you finish all the pseudocoding and the test data, then you can translate each statement into Python code. And that approach will pay dividends in your programming efforts. You will develop good habits. You will think about the problems. You will develop the solutions. That is, you will be designing, and then you will be doing the implementation. That is the right approach. Don't cut corners.